Hi, guys, and welcome to this special episode of the Happy Knitting Podcast. My name is Julia, and I'm coming to you as always from south of Germany. Today is not a regular podcast episode, but instead it's going to be the long promised and apparently now sort of annual sweater episode. So I teased quite a long time ago that if you guys were interested, I would do another sweater video. So I've done this in the past, about a year ago, and if I'm really organized, I will link this video down below. But you guys were super keen to hear more about recent sweaters of mine, how they have worn, how I'm enjoying the yarn and all of that. And I kept waiting for the perfect time to record said video, and the perfect time never came because I wanted it to be all organized and perfect timing, perfect lighting, perfect everything. And you know what? That is never going to happen. So instead, I decided I have a free minute now. The lighting is good. And I just grabbed a bunch of sweaters and we're just gonna jump right in. So I'm most likely going to forget some stuff. I'm most likely not going to know every single designer and whatever. But at least you will get some kind of content, and I hope that you will excuse the not perfect manner in which this may be conducted or not, who knows. Also, my work may call, and then I will just have to pause, but we will just get through all of that, and you all get to see some fun and fabulous sweaters. So just a clarification, if you're new to the podcast, I would recommend that you maybe watch a few of the other episodes because those are more sort of regular episodes. This time I'm just going to be talking about a couple of sweaters. I haven't thought this through, really. I just have a bunch of stuff right next to me and I'm just going to tell you whatever comes to mind. And I will have a link to my project pages down below the video. So if you have any more questions, if you need to know modifications, designers, needle size, yarn names, colorways, all of that, you will be able to find that there. And if I'm especially organized, I may actually even link to the specific sweater projects as well. But if I don't, just scroll through my projects and you will find them. So let's jump in, shall we? Maybe we should start with what I'm wearing today. I am wearing the No Frills sweater, which is a really popular pattern by Petite Knit. This is my first out of two versions that I knit out of it. Both have been heavily modified. So with all of the sweaters that I'm going to show you, you have to know that I tend to modify my sweaters quite a bit. So that's going to be an issue for all of that. But still, I wear this a ton. This is out of like a fuzzy yarn. This is a yarn that I got from a French company called La Droguerie about 1.5 years ago. And it's a blend of different fibers, including, I think, mohair, angora, silk, wool, and I don't even know what else. So it was a really fancy purchase, something very special. I actually bought the yarn the day that Kai proposed to me, which is a fun memory, and I just turned it into this No Frills sweater. And I'm not sure if this is the best layering, but I just tend to wear this a lot because it's very light. It's a very lightweight sweater. It's kind of warm, but not too warm. And just with this gray, I think it's just a really classy sort of colorway. It just works for a lot of stuff. So this is one of the sweaters that I would actually wear for work every now and then if it's not like a super formal day, because it just looks pretty finished and it's got a bit of a halo, but not too much. It's very soft. And I just like the fit. It just goes with everything. The yarn, I think it looks pretty much the same as when I bought it. It was fuzzy when I started wearing it, and it's still fuzzy, but it doesn't pill. It doesn't really do anything. So yeah, this is one that I sometimes forget about the sweater, but then I do wear it quite a lot whenever I remember because it's just a good layering piece as well. I wore it yesterday when we went to Christmas markets at like 0 degrees temperature and with like a really warm shawl and stuff. It was actually not that cold. So it's not, like I said, a really warm garment, but I think it's quite versatile. So that is what I'm wearing. And the next up, we have a very different garment. And everything is already falling down. This is one of my many Sweaters by Tin Can Knits. They have this strange brew pattern, which is like a recipe, and you can make your own design from that. So I think this is my third edition of the Strange Brew sweater. And as you can see, it's actually a Strange Brew cardigan. So I steeked this, I came up with the entire colorwork charts and all of that. And this is a cardigan that I wear quite a lot. I purposely brought this to Oslo when I went to the Oslo Knitting Festival when was it, October, September? This was my Oslo cardigan, and it served me so well there because it is very light. The yarn is JC Rennie. It's a Shetland type yarn. I think it's called Unique Shetland, but there's actually no Shetland in the yarn. But it's a Shetland type yarn. It's very rustic, so it is definitely a scratch yarn. This is not a soft garment, but it is incredibly light but very warm at the same time. So this is more your traditional non-superwash wool. It doesn't feel warm, but it is incredibly warm and incredibly good at like retaining your heat. In terms of wear, I've worn this quite a bit. Like I said, it's not my dressiest thing to wear, but it's just a really good garment when I just want to wear something for warmth rather than for style. It has been pilling, so you can see there's a couple of pills on here. I didn't depill any of this before showing it to you because obviously I want you to get a real idea of how things wear. So this has been pilling quite a bit, but it's not too bad. And I did knit, this is a fingering weight yarn or a sport weight yarn maybe, and I knit it at a DK weight gauge. So it all depends on your gauge. But yeah, all in all, I'm quite happy with this garment. I got this yarn in a D-stash actually, so it always feels really good for me to knit with D-stash yarn. It just feels like you're giving something a second home, and now it's become a sweater. So yeah, quite happy with this. Very different to this garment, but I do enjoy it, and I think I don't have to go into details about how much I love garments by Tin Can Knits, especially this Strange Brew, which will reappear later, because I have talked about that on the podcast quite a lot in the past. And maybe that is a good little insert actually to talk about the fact that I am not sponsored by anyone or anything. So everything that I mentioned today regarding yarn, regarding patterns, regarding designers, it's all my honest opinion. Everything I usually buy myself. If I don't, I will let you know. I just think it's very important to get that out there because nothing is worse than when you feel like someone's recommending something and then later you find out that maybe they're recommending it because they're getting paid to say that. So I'm definitely not just putting that out there. Alright, next up is a garment that is not necessarily pretty, but I wear it all the time. And this is going to be hard to show. This is a cardigan. It is another Tin Can Knits pattern actually. It's the Harvest cardigan by Tin Can Knits, and it is again my second time knitting this pattern. It's a top-down cardigan where you start with this collar and then you just knit everything at once, so there's no attaching the collar later. You just knit the body and the sleeves and you're done. This is a huge thing. This is an incredibly long cardigan which I knit specifically for the purpose of having something around the house, around my home office to wear whenever I get cold. So this is not a garment that I knit to wear as anything specific. It's just one of those garments you need to stay warm. And it does the job perfectly. I will say the pattern, I have difficulties with cardigan patterns because they very often slip off my shoulders, and this one definitely does that. So that may just be the way that my shoulder frame is. Who knows? It doesn't stay on particularly well, which happens to me with a lot of cardigans. But I do wear this all the time. I usually have this just like draped over my desk chair where I'm sitting right now, and I will just put it on and it's just a really nice cozy warm piece. The yarn is Plötulopi, so it's Icelandic yarn, and this is the yarn that is essentially just roving, so it hasn't really been spun. And I'm hoping you can see this has such long hairs. It's such a halo yarn. I knit this again on a DK weight gauge, I believe, or even more than that, possibly even Aran weight gauge. So it's a very loose gauge, and it's a super long coat, but because the yarn is just so light, it is actually a very light garment, so I really, really like that. Like if I had knit this out of like a superwash DK or Aran yarn, this would weigh a kilo, but instead it didn't use very much yarn at all. And as you can see, I just used, I think I had 400-gram discs of that yarn. It comes in these flat pack discs, and I didn't even use most of the yarn. So it's a very affordable garment. You can see definitely there's pilling on it, and I mean there's always been a halo, but of course just by wearing it you can definitely see it. But I just wear this a lot. It's just a really, really cozy, comfy thing to wear. Again, it is scratchy. You need to know if you're able to wear these things. Icelandic wool is known to be not very soft, and I don't mind it, but I wouldn't wear this over a tank top, so that's something to consider. But I do really quite like it, and I think I wouldn't need like 5 sweaters out of a yarn like this, but having one is really good. And I don't actually, this may sound gross, but I don't wash this a whole lot, because with woolen things you can just hang them outside and they will essentially be clean again. So this just goes onto the balcony every now and then. Actually, that's where I just got it from, and it's a little bit cold and wet, but it just works perfectly, and you can just wear it on and on and on. And yeah, because washing this every week with hand washing and drying would be a pain. I'm going to be quite honest. I think we need to be practical about these things, and it sounds weird when you say you don't wash your sweaters that often, but if it's non-superwash wool, you don't actually need to wash it a whole lot. Anyways, those are my thoughts on this sweater. I'm sorry, I'm not showing this to you very well, but again, you find links to my project pages, and there should be proper photos of all of these garments, and this one is just a very, very large one, so it's hard to show you guys. Next up is another one of my most favorite garments ever, and this is one that I only finished in like August or September this year. This is actually the first sweater that I quote unquote designed myself. So this is one that I did without a pattern. I just had the yarn and I just wanted to knit it into a specific sweater. I had this image of a slightly textured, oversized, color blocked sweater, and that's exactly what I did. So this is a top-down raglan. I started at the top with some ribbing, then went into my texture, and as you can see, I did these really wide block stripes. I have the texture pattern all over the sleeves and the body of the sweater. And this is yarn from Rauma. It's Roma Fine yarn. This is actually the darker one is from the old PT2, so this is a discontinued colorway, I think. I got this during my first trip to Oslo in like a discontinued sale box in their Halloween sale, and this one is the color that I think everyone will know. It's a very popular new Finu PT2 colorway, I think. And I originally bought this to knit a traditional Norwegian garment out of it before I realized that I can't knit Finu garn to gauge. So Norwegians will knit this to like a fingering weight gauge, and I can only get it to a DK weight gauge. And I didn't really have enough to really do a whole lot. So this garment used that up perfectly, and I wear this all the time. I think this is my most worn sweater at home, especially once I finished it. I think Kai got kind of sick of me because this was basically all he saw me in. This is such a cozy, comfy sweater. You can see it's definitely quite oversized on me. And because, again, I knit this at a DK weight gauge, it is just drapey, it is comfortable. It is, again, it's not super soft. Rauma Fine yarn, it's not one of the soft yarns. It's a non-superwash wool, but again, it's just one of those yarns. You don't really sweat in the sweaters. It just breathes, and it's beautifully warm without being heavy. And I sound like I'm tooting my own horn here, but I just really love the sweater. In terms of wear, I don't know, I feel like these yarns, they just wear really well, so you'll find the occasional pill, but all in all, this just looks pretty good. And my experience with these yarns is that if anything, they'll just develop like a tiny bit of a soft halo. Not sure if you can see it, but all in all, it's holding up really well. I mean, I haven't had the sweater for that long, but like I said, wear it all the time. And yeah, that is pretty much it for this one. Next up, and I'm doing all my favorite sweaters right now because they were just on top of the pile. But don't trust me, I won't just keep telling you how much I love every single sweater. But this is another favorite for sure. This is a very recent finish, so if you've been watching the podcast, you're probably sick of this, but this is the Earnest cardigan, which is a pattern by Joji Locatelli, and this is another yarn that I got from Oslo. I actually have the tag right here. No, I don't. That's the wrong tag. This is the Earnest cardigan. Like I said, it's another one of those cardigans where you have a cable panel across the back, and then you just knit from there, and you knit the collar and everything at the same time. The only modification to this that I did is I did the sleeves in stockinette. I also didn't do any waist shaping. And this is my favorite make this year. This is the one cardigan that I made that really just fits amazingly on the shoulders. I'm just so happy with this. I wear this every day. I made this for the Practical, which is a knit along by Woolenvine by Kristen. And this really is such a practical garment because, again, the color goes with everything. And I found that I can wear this with a lot of different things and style it very differently. So I can wear it with like a nice work shirt and it will almost look dressy. But of course, then you can also just pair with anything with like a t-shirt and it'll be more dressed down. And so again, I wear this all the time, and the most important thing is that this is the only cardigan that I've knit that just stays on the shoulders perfectly. I'm not sure if it's the design, it's just another raglan, so I don't really know what it is about this one, but this one just fits. It just fits to my body, and I will always wear this sweater at some point in the day, even if it's just like having breakfast in the morning before I get properly dressed. I will wear the sweater, and this has gotten so much love. Because of that, I mean, it hasn't been finished for that long, only maybe a couple of months, if even that. The yarn has behaved really interestingly. It's not a soft yarn again. In the beginning, I was quite worried because it's quite sturdy. It's Hillesvåg Sølje, which is another Norwegian non-superwash wool. It is prickly, I will say that, but then for me personally, I really like it because especially here in the stockinette parts, it just softens up beautifully. So again, you get this kind of halo on top of the yarn, and I don't mind it. Again, it's very, very, very personal to see which yarns you can bear on your skin. But I can wear this with t-shirts on my bare arms and it works just fine. This has been pilling a little bit. I will be honest, there are some pills on here. There are quite a few pills under the arms, but nothing that's terrible. So I'm hoping this will last me a very long time. I will check back with you next year to see if that's true. But yeah, this has just been very wearable, and I find that the yarn works really well both in stockinette and in this texture stitch, in the cables. The stitch definition is quite good and it's staying quite good. Yeah, and it's just got a nice drape to it as well, so it's kind of drapey but not, it's still a substantial sweater, so it stays pretty warm. I love the design, obviously. There's another big cable on the back, which I never show, but it's just a beautiful sweater. I did some modifications, as you may remember, so I lengthened it and I did a really long rib down the bottom just because I wanted that look. And yeah, it just is one of those sweaters that works perfectly with my style, and I wear this so much. Next up is a sweater that I don't wear that much. which is a bummer because it's beautiful. This is the Eri sweater, E-R-I, by Isabel Krämer. I believe, if I'm not, I'm really sorry, but I'm pretty sure it is. This is another top-down sweater. It's a raglan with, as you can see, these cables and this lace on the front. I really like this pattern. I could actually see myself making it again, even though I don't really know why I don't wear it so much. I think part of it has to do with the yarn. This yarn is beautiful. I got it on like a sale with 50% off. This is Cambria Fingering by the Fiber Company. And it's a really beautiful blend of different British breeds. It's a really, really beautiful yarn. But interestingly, this one is itchy to me. Like, this is much softer than many of the other yarns that people find itchy, but I don't know, there's some fiber in here that doesn't really jive with me, and that's really, really rare. But for some reason, that's why I think I'm not really drawn to wearing it. Like, I don't hate wearing it. I don't get like red skin and have to take it off immediately, but something about this doesn't really work with me, even though I'm also thinking maybe I just need to wear it more and give it a chance. I'm also not sure, maybe it's also partly the color. It's a beautiful color, but I just don't gravitate to it. Considering I haven't really worn this, there is some pilling, nothing terrible, but again, I haven't worn this a whole lot, so I'm not really sure where the pilling is coming from. The fit of this sweater is beautiful, I will say, and like, just visually, I think it's a stunning sweater. I really like these sweaters that have like textures and cables. And my goal for this knitting year was to knit more cables, so this is another cable garment that I completed. Like I said, nothing wrong with it at all. It's just my experience with it is that I don't necessarily wear it a lot, but it is a beautiful, beautiful yarn. And I know that they have this yarn in like a beautiful, stunning, like a mustardy yellow, and like it's even more like a green mustard, I think. And it's a color that I just really want to have, so eventually I think I just need to get that and make it work for me, because that's just one color that I really want. But yeah, that is my Airy sweater. Mixed results, most of which are, I think, based on my personal preferences rather than anything else. I feel like I'm speeding through this. I have 4 more sweaters to go. Next up is another sweater that I quite like. I don't wear it as often as I think I should, but this is another No Frills sweater, even though this one is so modified that I would hesitate calling this a No Frills sweater. So this obviously doesn't have any mohair in it, and the No Frills is notoriously oversized with batwing sleeves. And I just basically used the neckline and the increase section and then didn't make it as oversized. You can also see there's some crinkles in it because this has been folded up. I knit this out of a yarn by La Bien-Aimée, which I got when we went to Paris in February, I think, last year, which was an amazing trip. We went for the weekend and I got 3 skeins of their sport weight. I think the colorway is called Andromeda, but I'm not 100% sure. I know that I alternated the skeins throughout the project because it is a iridite yarn and it's a superwash garment. I don't knit that many garments out of superwash yarn, but when I do really like it because they tend to be very light. So with this, for example, it was quite fitted, but then I washed it, and superwash yarns, they just tend to grow a little bit and relax, and now this is like a sweatshirt kind of fabric. Like, it's really comfortable to wear, it's very soft, and it's just a really easy garment to wear. The only reason why I don't really wear it so much is, honestly, I loved this color when I bought it, but is it really a good color on me? Hang on, sorry about that, that was work. Is it really a good color on me? I'm not sure. Like, I feel very Barbie-y when I'm wearing this, and it's just not really my style right now. So I think that was one of those classical mistakes where I bought what I liked in terms of colors rather than what I like to wear in terms of color. Like, I'm all for it to wear whatever the heck you want. If you're a warm colors type and you like cool colors, like, do whatever you want. But for me, I think this is just a color that I don't wear that much. Like, I just, not because I think I look bad or good or anything in it, I just don't really like this color on me right now. But it is, like I said, a really comfortable sort of top slash sweater that you can just chuck on, and I do really like the yarn. Again, I haven't worn this a crazy amount, but I have worn it, and it's held up beautifully. It's still got beautiful stitch definition, and I mean, the speckles are just amazing. So yeah, this is a pretty good sweater. Not like my most favorite, most wearable, most worn thing ever, but I do really like it. Next up, and I just chose these by random, like, I think most of these I finished this year, but I may be repeating one or two. That's just it. But this next one is another another sweater, another strange brew by Tin Can Knits. I think this is my most recent one, although I'm not sure. And this was knit out of a yarn that I got myself as a birthday present to myself on a not so great birthday. So I bought myself this yarn. It is Rerum Natura in their Ulysse base, which is their sport weight base, I think. And it's a woolen spun yarn. It's really soft. It's really spongy. It's like the softest non-superwash wool that I've ever really seen. So I got myself this sweater quantity and I turned it into another strange brew sweater. I made up the entire yoke design, and you know what? It's a beautiful sweater. I don't wear it ever. I mean, I've worn it a couple of times, but I don't like it on me. I think, first of all, I knitted a little bit too cropped. So I don't really like cropped sweaters so much on me. And the sleeves are like they're between a 3/4 length sleeve and a full length sleeve. And I just didn't get it right. I mean, it's a beautiful fit. I just don't think it's a beautiful fit for me. And then I've tried wearing it and falling in love with it. And I'm also not sure again. I like the color, but I don't really like wearing the color. Honestly, I think it would look stunning on like a really natural blonde person. I'm not sure. Maybe I'm just making this up. But this is just not something I wear. And I have a choice to make with this because this is beautiful yarn. I don't want it to just sit in my wardrobe and not get worn, or wear it and not be happy with it. So maybe you can help me with this. I'm thinking either I will just frog the entire thing and use the yarn for something else, or I'm happy to maybe sell it or swap it against some yarn, sell it against the cost of the yarn, like something. It's not going to be something crazy. Like, if any of you guys have a small size and you would like the sweater, do message me. If you're watching this video a year after it's been published, chances are I've probably gotten rid or frogged the sweater. But if you're watching this when this video is coming out and you're maybe like a 34-inch bust, maybe not as tall as I am, I'm 172 centimeters, do message me. Otherwise, I think I may just really frog it and use the yarn for something else. Although I'm not sure, like, I don't necessarily want another sweater in the same color, and there's only so many pairs of hats and mittens and stuff that you can make. So this one I'm not sure about. I love the yarn. It's nothing to do with the yarn. It's one of my favorite yarns that I've worked with this year. I think I just kind of made the wrong pattern and yarn and color combination for my personal taste. So yeah, that is my Strange Brew sweater. Next up, with this one, I'm actually not sure if I showed this to you last year. This is one of Jennifer Steingasser's patterns. She has so many, and I've knit so many of them that I don't really know which one this one is. I'm sorry about that. I think it's the Dark Water one. Is it called Dark Water? It may be, it may not be. You will find it in my project pages. It's a top-down colorwork sweater, and this is the sort of garment that I have quite a few of, and I wear them quite a lot. Like, it's a very light garment. The yarn that I used is between a light fingering and a lace weight yarn. I'm not sure if you can tell, but it's very drapey. It's also very, it needs a good look. But it's very drapey, it's very light. I don't know how much this weighs, but it feels like next to nothing. It's a very loose gauge. And these sweaters, I have a couple of these. I have a couple out of Holzgarn, and I just wear them a lot because they're so easy. They're more like summer sweaters. I just chuck them on and I'm ready to go outside. This one is knit out of a yarn by Isaga. Their Highland Wool, I think it's called. I didn't really enjoy knitting with it so much because it's quite thin, it's very woolly, but I do really like it the more that I wear it and wash it. So again, it's not super soft, but it's relatively soft. It wears pretty well. It kind of fuzzes over just a tiny bit. And I really like the very, very, very soft variegation in the yarn. Like, it just looks really beautiful. And you can see, again, there's some pilling. There's a little bit of pilling. But I've worn this quite a lot, so I'm still pretty happy with it. And this is actually a yarn where I think I might get more of it in the future because they have some pretty nice colors, and it's just a nice yarn to wear, I think, for me personally. So again, you can just tell, like, it depends so much on what you like, what climate you live in, what kind of clothes you tend to wear. Are you someone who's constantly cold, or are you someone who's constantly overheating and preferring lighter sweaters? There's just so many different factors, and I think that's really interesting because we have all these different wools and these different yarns, and they all kind of have their place. You just need to really know what you want to do with each yarn to make it work. So fitting into that sort of speech, my last sweater that I'm going to show you today is one of my favorites as well. This is, of course, Boxy. This is the original Boxy pattern by Joji Locatelli. The fingering weight version, and I knit this out of Wollmeise lace yarn. A few words about the pattern. This is my second Boxy. The first one I donated after not wearing it forever and ever. For both of them, I've cast on less stitches. So if you go to my project pages, you will find my cast on number. I cast on less stitches because I still wanted Boxy, but I don't need a sweater that's like 2 meters wide. Just personally, I think you can get the Boxy effect without making it that wide, and that just makes it a little bit faster to knit. It means that when you do the neckline, you do have to adjust a little bit, but that wasn't very hard math to do. I think I did with this one, I did the length pretty much as it was written in the pattern. So the first one I did, I made it longer, and it kind of ended up like a tent. This one is quite cropped, but because it's so boxy, it actually works really well, and I wear this a lot. This is probably my most worn cropped garment. I also did my own sleeves, as I usually do, and I was going to say I alternated skeins, but I actually didn't because I used Wollmeise lace for it, which is applied lace weight yarn, and it comes in these huge 300-gram skeins. So you can actually get, or I could get, the entire Boxy out of one skein, and I still have lots of yarn left over. So that for my size, that was pretty easy to do. And I would imagine for really most sizes, you should be able to do that. Again, of course, it also depends on if you cast on the full amount of stitches or if you cheat like me and cast on a few stitches less. The yarn, I really like that just because it was just one skein, dyed at one time. I didn't have to alternate. I could just knit the entire sweater from one skein and not worry too much. And as you can tell, it didn't really pull. It has this really nice sort of look to it. It definitely looks hand-dyed. This was one of the new Wollmeise colors that they had in stock when we went to visit in the beginning of July. And this is somehow become my travel sweater, so I've been wearing this whenever I travel somewhere. I know this has been to a couple of airports. I actually wore this throughout summer as well, so again, it's a very, very versatile garment. It's not a super warm one, but yeah, I really, really like it. And I also really like the color. Like, this is very far out of my comfort zone. It's almost like olive green to brown. And when we when we walked into the Wollmeister store with my friend Robin and my friend Marion, I just gravitated towards the skein, and then the entire time I was trying to get rid of it again, and like, I'm not going to get it because it's just not my color. And both of them just kept telling me, you need to get that color. Whatever you do, you need to get that skein. And when we got home, and I bought a couple of lace weight skein yarns, so I actually have yarn to make 2 more of these, which may actually be a Christmas project. It may be a good Christmas project. Anyways, I just knew I wanted to use one of them to cast on the Boxy, and big surprise, this color is what I chose. So I'm so grateful for them to keep telling me, or to have kept telling me, that I need this color because I really like it. And now that I have it, I think it actually really suits me as well. So again, one of my most worn sweaters, the yarn has held up pretty well. It is of course a kind of loose gauge, and every now and then I have gotten like a stitch caught on something, like a zipper or a bag or whatever you get your stuff caught on. So you can see there's a couple of places in my sweater. I just need to fix it. But all in all, I'm pretty happy with it, and the price point for this wasn't too bad. So I really would like to have like 3 or 5 of these. I would wear them all the time. I just need to find the energy and the willpower to knit more of these because, of course, it is a lot of knitting. But yeah, those are the sweaters that I've brought out to show you today. Like I said, they were kind of chosen by random. I tried to pick sweaters that I didn't talk to you about in the recent sweater episode. And I think I showed you a good mix. So there was everything in there, from Icelandic wool to superwash wool, from really affordable yarns. A lot of those yarns that I just showed you were quite affordable. And then there were some indie dyed skeins in there as well. So I just really wanted to give you a quick rundown of different yarns, different garments, different things you can do. And I just really hope, after making you wait for this for quite a while, I really hope that this was interesting to you. I know you guys generally like it when I do these, I guess, unofficial review videos. So I've done this a lot with socks in the past, where I would talk about how different sock yarns have worn, and I guess this is the same idea. So I am just so curious about your feedback, and yeah, just show me what you're knitting as well. And because I know that someone will ask me, how do I store my sweaters, how do I wash my sweaters, I'll just give you the quick rundown. Generally, I don't do anything super fancy, so I have a normal closet, as people do. And what I did over the summer is actually I put the really true winter huge colorwork sweaters in a vacuum bag and just kept it vacuum sealed under my bed, more for my own peace of mind than anything else. It also meant that then I just had the sweaters out that I would actually wear, which made picking what to wear a little bit easier. But there are some warm sweaters, like that huge harvest cardigan jacket that I showed you, which I pretty much always have out. But yeah, besides the vacuum bag, really I just have my sweaters in my closet. I try to make sure that I have some moth paper in there, and generally just keep my closets clean and not dusty. And when I've worn something and I'm not washing it, I will put it outside first, so I don't get anything in the closet that may then attract moths or carpet beetles or anything like that. In terms of how do I care for these garments, if I wash them, I pretty much hand wash every single one of them. I think the only garment that I've ever not hand washed was my previous Boxy, which has since been donated. I know that with the superwash garments you can wash them. I do machine wash all of my socks, but with garments I just throw them in the sink. I usually use I usually use what's it called? Eucalan wash. It's pretty much the only one that I've tried and I like it, so I keep using it. I just soak the sweater in Eucalan water and then for a spinning cycle. So I will just spin it on like a maybe 600 or 800 setting, which is lower than what my machine automatically suggests. And that gets the air out, the water out. So when you get your sweater out of your spin cycle, it just tends to be nice and fluffy and not too wet. Whereas if I do dry my sweaters in a towel and you roll it up, you can do that. But sometimes they come out really like crinkled, and I tend to think that spinning your sweaters to dry them just makes the fibers bloom more, and I prefer that. And then I will just lay it flat to dry to block it. And honestly, I know I should really block them properly, but if it's a garment that I wear all the time, sometimes I will just make sure it's not too wet. So again, spinning cycle is important, and then if it's almost dry, I will just hang it outside and it'll be fine. So nothing super fancy there, and yes, I could probably machine wash more, but I just don't. The only exception to that is actually a tip that I got from Ellie from Skandir. I'm pretty sure she said that she machine washes Holzgarn, and I've tried that, and I really liked how the Holzgarn felt after that, like the Holzgarn super soft. But I also felt like my sweaters have gotten a little bit smaller doing that. So it's just always depending on what you want from your garments. But for me, whether I put it in the washing machine or whether I just throw it in the sink and then put it on a spin cycle, it doesn't really matter in terms of time investment. So yeah, that is pretty much what I do. I store them, I wash them, I wear them, and I think there's nothing really else that I've forgotten, I hope. Alright, so there you have it. That was this year's sweater video. Like I said, I'm curious about what you have to say about it, and do let me know if you want more videos like that in the future. I'm never promising anything, but it's good to know what you guys like. And I think with that, I'm going to let you guys go. I hope maybe I've enabled some of you to have some more sweater mojo and start knitting your sweaters. And if you're one of those people who has never knit a sweater and is anxious about that, don't worry, you can't really go wrong with knitting a sweater. Worst comes to worst, you can always undo your knitting, and not everything has to be perfect. So I can only encourage you guys to knit some garments with me. Maybe we should do some kind of garment along. Let me know what you think, and I will see you back for another regular podcast episode soon. So until then, happy knitting. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you soon. Bye!